Hello, everyone, and welcome to 368.tv. My name is Chooks, and I'll be your show host for today's interview. In the house with me today is Gerry Marcus, an L&D specialist. Hello, Gerry.
Hi, Chooks. Nice to meet you.
Likewise. Just before we begin, can you give us a little bit about your background and the work you do?
Yeah, so I've worked a lot in large organizations. I've worked in both kind of direct training of operational teams as well as leadership training. And I enjoy working on projects that are more about the future of organizations and the learning that supports where employees are going, where the organization's going.
Oh, excellent. So I've listened to a little bit about what you've discussed in today's session in one of your presentations earlier. You're looking at enterprise education. So my first question is, how do you envision the future of enterprise education, and what role do you believe learning and development directors play in shaping the future?
In large organizations, there can be a challenge with having formal education embedded in their learning strategy. And I think there's lots of new models for how formal education, such as degrees and master's level qualifications, can actually apply now. And there's a lot of opportunities with these qualifications being more relevant to what organizations are doing and more relevant to solving problems in those organizations rather than being kind of like a more static kind of educational type of study form. So a lot more connected to the enterprise and what problems it faces. And I think that's useful for enterprises to drive the value proposition and improve outcomes for people, careers, compensation, rewards, and benefits.
Now, one of the things I learned from your presentation today was looking at how it's taken 2 months for ChatGPT to get to 100 million users. So it looks like there are people using it. So when we think about generative AI and it's informing the workplace development, what are the current impacts or challenges?
The challenges with generative AI is really, so there's kind of two dimensions. There's that whole technical dimension around the technology elements behind it, cybersecurity, data integrity, there's all those elements. But I think there's a whole other piece of this that we need to start talking about and organizations need to understand. And that's, what are the impacts on the workforce and how we're going to transition a workforce from where it is now to a future that incorporates generative AI. It is going to take new skills for employees. It's going to create new thinking and opportunities for the enterprise itself. But we need to work out how we're going to take employees along that journey and give them a future in that organization. And I think part of the critical opportunity here is, how do we ensure that employee wellbeing, retention and engagement are a fundamental component of that strategy? So it's really the technical elements, but then there's all these human elements that we really want to be focusing on.
Talking about human elements, I'm always very curious. Do you think employees and organizations are open to the development, or would you think this would be a heavy burden in terms of upskilling and trying to meet up technology?
Well, that all comes down to the organization, their strategy and how they approach this. If they approach it from a very kind of like dogmatic perspective, or a very top-down perspective in terms of like, this is what's going to happen, this is how you're going to use it, I think that's going to create problems for people because it is such a new technology. I think the best opportunity is to create opportunities for innovation and involving the workforce and people in the workforce. There will be people that are really interested in the application of AI, and there'll also be people who really want to solve organizational problems. If we can bring those people and engage them together, I think we have an opportunity to identify that low-hanging fruit where AI can really solve those issues. And then we can look beyond that and say, how can we improve the organization and its efficiency? And then what are the other new opportunities that the organization can deliver to its customer?
Yeah, so I think that's understanding what the needs are for the organization, identifying people who are interested, people who are looking to use AI to solve problems, and bringing them together to create that community to innovate and improve work.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So I think one of the things we're noticing is we're in the era of AI, and things are beginning to change in how we're learning as well. the workplace as well. Can you share some insights into your strategy for integrating the emerging technologies examples, AI, VR, AR, into the learning and development programs to align with the evolving needs of the workforce?
It's critical for organizations to apply their workforce and their employees to be able to help solve these problems. I think the idea that strategy lives at the C-suite level is an aging idea. And I think the opportunity is to leverage the value that employees bring, their knowledge of the solutions and problems that they face on a daily basis, and helping them look at these emerging technologies and how they can apply to solving these problems. I think they're best placed to do that. And I think it's a great opportunity to engage staff and also help retain them through solving these problems.
Mm. So while we're engaging staff, it's very important to think about the culture of the organization. So how do we foster a culture of continuous learning within the organization, looking at preparing employees for the dynamic challenges of the future?
Yeah, so I think this ties back into the original question of like formal education. It's like, how do you give, uh, how do you inject new knowledge into organizations? And the best way to do that is through people, like through formal education that can give people new thinking and new ideas. I think the danger of every organization is that it becomes an echo chamber where people are trying to solve issues with the level of knowledge they're at. What we need is a new injection of information. We need new practices. We need to be around uh, other people solving problems or who have solved those problems through other organizations. I think the opportunity is to have employees broaden their understanding of what's actually happening out there. And I think the right type of formal education strategy can support that.
Mm. All right. I think that brings us to the end of today's interview. But just before we wrap up, have you got any thoughts or any advice for any of your colleagues who might be watching this in terms of how they think about the enterprise education and their current organization?
So I think the opportunity is for them to consider these new higher education degrees out there. There's a lot more educational providers looking more intently at the way formal education is delivered. It's way more integrated into what organizations need. It's more future focused, and it's there to support organizations in solving organizational problems. So I think there's definitely new providers out there. Education's definitely evolved.
Excellent. All right. I'd like to say a big thank you to Gerry Marcus, who's actually shared his insights on the future of education, particular enterprise education in organizations. Thank you again.
Thanks, Chooks. Great to chat with you.